The governors of Benue and Taraba states have resolved to establish a joint military police patrol and surveillance team across the border lines of the states. This resolution was reached at the end of a joint Security Council meeting of the two states held in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, to review the success and impact of the amnesty program introduced by Governor Samuel Ortom. Following the surrendering of Tewase Agwaza, popularly known as Ghana, to the amnesty program in Benue state, the Sankara Wukari Takum axis in the two states have begun to experience relative peace.
For several years, security has become a major challenge that governments are trying to tackle. For instance, the Boko Haram issue is one the federal government is doing its best to win the war against. The states are also doing their best to deal with their own challenges. Benue and Taraba states have had their own fair share of communal crises arising from land dispute and, most recently, insurgent invasion. This is the reason for the security meeting organized by the Benue and Taraba state governors in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, to strengthen the Benue amnesty program. Present at this meeting are security officers, traditional and religious rulers, and repentant militia groups. And top on the agenda is for the militia to surrender their arms.
On the end of September, I have spoken to our security men in the states, and the government is ready to give them the required support so that we go against all criminal elements in the state. And I can assure you that we are arrested. Even if you hide inside the hole, we are going to pull you out and sanction you.
The militia groups were also asked to allow peace reign in order to move the states forward.
That personnel, communities that have found themselves in either of the states should submit themselves to the authorities in the states and respect the rules and tenets of such states.
Both Benue and Taraba, you can't have a more fortunate time than now. Give us peace, and I know my friend Tom and myself who will give you the honor.
At the end of the meeting, the former crime lord said his gang has renounced crime and violence.
The reason why I've decided to come into the open and lay down my arms is that this newly elected governor sent a message saying he wanted to understand the issue with us militants. He said those of us who possessed firearms and it appeared as if we were earning our living with these weapons should surrender our guns to him and he'll take care of us. And when I conferred with my bishop and he confirmed that the governor's intentions were honorable, I went back and told my comrades at arms that we could now hand in our weapons.
The meeting ends with a signed communique, and going by the warmth seen in this room, one expects that the issue of communal clash and constant killing in the two states will be a thing of the past.
Still on security, over the last decade, the political crisis over indigent rights and political representation in Jos, the Plateau state capital, has developed into a protracted communal conflict affecting most parts of the state. Human Rights Watch has reported that as many as 7,000 people have been killed since late 2001, when the first major riot in more than 3 decades broke out in Jos. 14 years later, only the heavy presence of the military and police forces ensures a fragile calm in the city. Tensions between ethnic groups rooted in the allocation of resources, electoral competition, fears of religious domination, and contested land rights have amalgamated into an explosive mix. Known as the home for peace and tourism, Plateau State is currently going through one of its worst phases of security challenge, with reports of killings in remote areas of Riom, Barkinladi, and Bokos. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by Ms. Kate Pam, a social activist, to discuss this issue further. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Plateau State used to be a popular holiday destination.
Absolutely.
In fact, it was known as the home of peace and tourism. How would you describe it now?
Oh my gosh, Plateau State is a ghost of itself. There are curfews everywhere. People are unable to move freely. As I speak to you now in the rural areas, people have to go to their farmlands in bands. So today they agree that we're going to Mr. A's farm, and then all of them band together and they have their local vigilante going with them. We have photos of hundreds of people who have been killed on their farmlands. Women are raped and they're killed on their farmlands. Children are not spared. Even infants are not spared. Some of them are burnt to death. It's just, the way the killings are done is sometimes there are gunshots, but most of the time these people are hacked to death. Only last week, Monday, while we were protesting in Jos to the government, well, on our way to the government house, the death toll between August the 30th and now is about 14. And on Monday, 9 people were killed.
Now, as an indigene, how do you feel about this insecurity and uncertainty and ongoing violence? I mean, it's really troubled the state for so long. How do you feel?
It's dismal. I think it's condemnable. It's really sad because the Jos that I grew up in is not the Jos that my nieces, my nephews, that children are growing up in today. Today, communities are polarized along religious and ethnic lines. So there's schools that you go to in Plateau State today and you will not find a single Muslim. In some other schools you will not find one single Christian. And it makes one to wonder what the elections will look like in the next, in 2023, or in the next 10, 15 years. Because children who are in secondary school now will be the ones that will be voting next time. So you can imagine if this doesn't stop, the level of animosity that is deepening now because nothing has been done in the last 14 years. Not one single arrest has happened since this crisis has started. So it's really sad to think about what Nigeria will look like in the next 10 years.
Now, what do you think is the real reason? You're there, you're on the ground. What do you think is the real reason behind this ongoing violence?
Historically, it's not different from what you have read out in terms of ethnic, in terms of the land ownership and all that. But in my opinion, I think the major problem has been politics that has weakened our institutions. Because even in Nigeria today, I think that the Nigerian has been marginalized against the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Hausa. Look at the construct of our political parties. You find people from the Southeast extract, congregating together and all that. And I think it's deepening. And so when injustice is not punished, naturally, the human heart will turn to evil. And so more than anything now, the impunity and the way that the audacity with which it's done now it's nothing like has ever happened before.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the news at 10. I've been speaking with a social activist, Ms. Kate Pam. A presidential committee to audit Nigerian foreign missions is being considered by President Muhammadu Buhari, and the task of the committee would be to determine which ones can stay. Speaking after being briefed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, President Buhari said that a presidential committee will carry out the review. The president said that the review will also determine the number of essential missions Nigeria needs to have abroad so that appropriate standards and quality can be maintained. The president said that there was no point in Nigeria operating missions all over the world with dilapidated facilities and demoralized staff, when the need for some of the missions was questionable.
Mr. President listened very attentively and carefully to the presentation, at the end of which he reminded the ministry to be realistic in terms of our representation abroad, we have 119 missions. He asked the question whether we need to have that number or we rationalize based on our capacity. Right now, the economy is looking down. We are trying to revive and revamp, but it's a matter of time. We will see the direction. So the specific directive that he has given is that a committee be formed to look at the whole issue of our representation abroad, the size and number of missions, and whether or not the number should remain the same or we do something about those numbers.
Meanwhile, the Controller General of Nigerian Immigration Service, Mr. Martin Abeshi, has begun withdrawing diplomatic passports of ex-governors, ministers, and other political office holders. This is in line with the directive from the presidency that all diplomatic passports be withdrawn from people, especially those who are no longer in service. Those who fall under this category are state governors, senators, members of the House of Representatives, members of the House of Assembly, ministers, commissioners, special advisors, council chairmen, and retired heads of parastatals. How far have these groups of people complied with the directive? And what is the penalty for those who refuse to return these passports? The Immigration Act 2015 states clearly that unauthorized possession of this category of passports is punishable under the law. The police have arrested 22 members of the movement for the actualization of sovereign states of Biafra in some parts of the country. The police says that 4 suspects were apprehended in Anambra, 6 in Imo, 11 in Delta, and 1 in Abia states. A statement issued by the Force Public Relations Officer, Olabisi Kolawole, says the arrests were sequel to the order by the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, for a clampdown on persons or group of persons inciting violence and social disorder across the country. The police said all the persons so far arrested for inciting violence, irrespective of their class or status in the society, would be charged to court. Now, when the news at 10 returns, Nigeria Labour Congress challenges government on job creation. Please join us again.